Hi, everyone. I just wanted to, I'm having lots of thoughts and kind of downloads, especially around um, the kind of astrology of what's happening right now globally. Um, and I wanted to share some of that. Um, Also, just really noticing as many friends and clients have kind of shared with me, there's there's emotional contagion, right? So the fear and panic that just kind of spreads very rapidly, even much quicker than this virus does throughout humanity, and especially with social media. But I think on a deeper level there's an energetic aspect to it too, right? That we're really more so than I can remember in my lifetime having um, this ability to tap into the collective field, um, which some of you, that word sounds familiar, others not. But the collective field is essentially, as some physicists and mystics call it, like the Akashic kind of record, which is an energetic um, kind of body to the earth, or maybe even to the cosmos, that kind of we're all on some level connected to, that stores information and memory and emotion. um, and I've seen lots of people, clients of mine, or even myself and my wife, where there's almost like this energetic kind of shakiness, right? You can tap into this anxiety. um, at the same time, there's also this sense of stillness, with everything shutting down. If you kind of tune into that, and that can be really helpful too, to just try to tune into that stillness in your body. um, there's kind of those two sides of that collective field right now, I feel like, which is a lot of anxiety and panic, a lot of fear, and then at the same time that kind of stillness that's arising from things kind of coming to a stop. um, just popped into my head, this is kind of like in the Sleeping Beauty, where there's 100 years of sleep. um, just that kind of stillness as things shut down. um, and I understand, there are really things to worry about, but so much of those things to worry about are out of our control. So my experience is, personally, which may sound crazy, is I have less anxiety right now than I normally do. And part of that is because I feel that collective field. This is something we're in all together. So there's that social distancing, but there's also this collective, like we are all in this together, maybe more so than we've ever consciously realized. As a globe, we are all in this together. um, which kind of comes to the astrology of this, which is, uh, I mean, there's major cycles, outer planetary cycles, that are having their moment in time right now. One is the Saturn Pluto, which brings intense contraction and fear and this kind of death process, on a personal and global scale, of kind of death and rebirth. And that requires a certain level of moral focus, of kind of coming, things having, us having to find our inner center, in the midst of chaos. That's a big part of what the Saturn Pluto can kind of offer. The other aspect that I haven't really been paying attention to, but which now is just kind of glaring in my face with this idea of the collective field, is that, Neptune is in Pisces. And Neptune really is the planet of this collective field, this kind of oceanic consciousness, or soup that we all live in. And things like social media, um, all of that, the internet, right? So the internet really was birthed when there was a kind of once in a lifetime Neptune Uranus conjunction, in Sagittarius, oh no, in Capricorn. And there was this huge spread of the internet, which connected us globally. And then Neptune entered Pisces, and that was also right around the time of the kind of mass expansion of social media and being able to connect on the internet on a global scale. And, you know, Pisces really is the sign of the collective, right, of the mass of humanity, and being able to connect to the bigger kind of brotherhood and sisterhood of humanity. That's one of its kind of higher archetypes. So with Neptune in Pisces right now, we are having more and more an experience as humanity of collecting, of the collective field, right? Our individual consciousness, now more so than ever, can really tap into that collective field. And thus, why social media can cause so much misinformation, so much illusion, such quick panic. You know, we have had other pandemics, and never has it spread this quickly or with this much intensity on a global scale. And given there are certain things about coronavirus that make it unique. So, you know, those are just some thoughts I have. Also, what's interesting is this current lunar cycle we're in, from new moon to new moon, started with a new moon in Pisces, with Mercury retrograding through Pisces. So I think that that's significant too, and it will change on the 24th when we have our new moon in Aries, although Neptune's still in Pisces and Mercury is still in Pisces. But it is, you know, I think significant that Mercury, the mind, is in this place of our minds are all connected in the kind of collective field or soup of Pisces, with Neptune right there. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to look up the last new moon so we can see what day that was on, because it's not getting it right now. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the last new moon was at 4 degrees Pisces. And it was on February 23rd, 2020. So I'm sure if I were more meticulous, I could go back and we could look at what was going on with the coronavirus and the 23rd. But that seems about right for the timing of, I'm going to share my screen. That seems right about the timing of, this isn't really when this started expanding kind of rapidly. Yes, I'm going to pause this for a second, and then I will come back to the recording. Okay, so I'm back, and I am, I believe, sharing my screen. Shrink myself. Okay, so what we're looking at now is the new moon, or last previous new moon, in Pisces. And as you can see here, is at 4 degrees Pisces. We have Mercury there as it's just beginning its retrograde cycle at 9 degrees Pisces. And there is Neptune, which has been in Pisces, I believe, since 2004. And then we see Saturn and Pluto up here just in their separating conjunction, which is a once in every 37-year kind of cycle, which is very significant for where we are. And then Mercury retrograded all the way back through Pisces and went back into Aquarius for a little bit, and then now is currently back in Pisces. So I'm not going to try to predict how long this is going to last, but I will say this collective field experience is certainly going to last at least until Mercury, I think, conjoins Neptune towards the beginning of the month. Let me just double check where that happens. Yeah, April 3rd. And that's also right around when Saturn moves into Aquarius, which will also shift the energy quite a bit. So yeah, we're looking at definitely a couple weeks of this kind of stewing in the collective soup. And then the question comes to, do we want to spend this time being in the collective soup of fear? And how useful is that? Fear, obviously, if there's a rattlesnake in your bedroom, you want to have a certain level of fear, otherwise you could be in trouble. And then there's the fear of what might happen or what's going to happen in the future. And even then, it's like fear is only useful in those immediate rattlesnake situations. As I'm sure you all have, there's plenty of self-help and kind of mysticism, but I wanted to kind of end this with a quote from Steiner from this little book of collection of sections of his lectures and books where he talks about fear. It's really awesome little book. And here he is talking about, he calls it, what does he call it? Composed resignation, which I interpret as, essentially surrender, which is also another Neptunian, another Neptunian archetype, is this need to actually surrender, sacrifice your own will to something that is much bigger. So here we go. In its ideal form, the state of composed resignation or surrender would consist of a soul mood that could continuously say to itself, whatever is to come, whatever the next hour, the next morning might bring, since it is entirely unknown to me, I cannot change it, however fearful or anxious I may feel. So I shall await it with perfect inner peace of my soul, with perfect ocean stillness of my mind. The experience that arises out of this feeling of composed resignation towards the future has the following consequence. An individual who can live towards the future with such resignation and with perfect ocean stillness of his mind, without forfeiting his energy in any way, will be able to unfold the forces of his soul most intensely in the freest manner possible. It is as though one hindrance after another were to drop away from his soul, as though that mood were increasingly to come upon his soul, which has been characterized as a feeling of acceptance towards the events that flow toward us out of the future. Yeah, so that ocean stillness of mind, that's a great Mercury, Neptune idea, how to tap into that stillness and not project all of our fears and fantasies on to the future. And that when we have that soul state without fear, we have more soul forces, as Steiner says, to meet what comes to us. And I think that is the best scenario, that whatever comes to us, we're able to meet it fully. So thank you for listening, for those of you who are listening, and I'm going to try to start posting more stuff. So, all right, take care, be well.